But can I go back to something that you said when you were talking about your body changing, and you said about you were never picked on at the pool. Were you picked on elsewhere?
At school, I was very much known as the kind of tomboy because I did sport. I got a lot of comments being like, oh, you're a bit big to be a sports person, aren't you? I think the perception is that you are stick thin as a sports person, as an athlete. Everyone is just super thin with a six-pack. And I'm like, it's not always the case. I don't think I've ever had a six-pack in my life.
I certainly haven't.
I've trained like 30 hours a week and I've still not got a six-pack. I don't think it's physically possible for me to ever have a six-pack, but it's just everyone's body shape is different, and I think you don't always fit the mould of what a traditional person of that sport is, and I certainly never fit the mould. For me, the online bullying started once I'd had success until after Beijing, and then just got hammered on the trolling, and it was always about my appearance. It was always the way I looked.
I think for girls in particular, because society may have given them low self-esteem at the start, to then have these criticisms given to them while they're in the limelight can be really soul-destroying. So yes, I have dealt with a lot of female athletes who read these comments and it just demoralises them completely.
Nobody had ever given me a heads up that that was ever going to be the situation. So it was just a mix of just shock, of just didn't understand it. I was getting so many personal messages as well. I was just like, what have I done to you? I don't even know you. It was just very hard to deal with.
That kind of media reporting continues today. I mean, when it happened to Becky Adlington, I thought what was really important was that she spoke out about it. And there has been this real movement of sportswomen using their voices and using their platform and saying, hang on a second, this is damaging me, and actually this is a distraction. I'm a gold medalist or I'm a world champion. That's what you should be thinking about. But I think that culturally that kind of sexism is so steeped in the way that we talk about women, the way that we describe them, the way that we portray them in terms of imagery, that it's very hard to get away with. And then that of course is replicated on social media, where people are even less filtered and even more threatening and rude.
The better you are, unfortunately, the bigger target there is on your back. And I said, because Rebecca was so driven, you know, it does sort of rub some people the wrong way.
The emotional resilience that Becky showed was extraordinary. You know, that just shows what she's made of. And it's the same emotional resilience, I think, that has carried her through the really unfair commentary on her appearance that this incredibly athletic, strong, beautiful girl had to suffer because she didn't fit the stereotypes of what a very small proportion, but a loud proportion of the population think she should have fitted.
As women, we are so much more judged on how we look and what we are wearing. It doesn't happen like that for men. What you did was unbelievable. Everybody should have been celebrating, and it just puts a tarnish on it for you and makes it difficult for you to enjoy all the success.
When it first started for me, I would tell my mum and dad or people around me, friends, family, boyfriend, everything like that. I quickly learned not to. And then you end up keeping it in and bottling it up because it would upset people so much, and people around me would get so hurt. To your parents, you are their baby, you are their world, you are amazing. So for you, I can't imagine reading something about my daughter. I just would be distraught.
I remember having a conversation with Becky and saying, well, why would you ever want to write something so negative about... Why would you waste your time being so negative about someone else? Why not just keep your opinion to yourself? Because actually, who the heck is bothered if it's that negative? But it got Becky at a vulnerable time.
I think it just changes you. I remember getting my OBE and I wore this green dress, and the next day was, you're way too fat to wear that dress, you looked awful, blah, blah, blah. And it totally, now I don't have one photo up of when I got my OBE because I just don't want to remember that day because it was so tarnished, and I got so much hate for just a dress that I wore that just made me feel so bad about it.
As a dad, you want to protect and you want to put your arm around her and give her a cuddle as well. But the press have got to write stories to sell papers, etc. And you just have to accept that that's how it is.
It makes me think every time I put a dress on now, I'm like, what are the media going to say? What is going to be written about me? What are people going to say about it?
Someone like Serena Williams, you know, she was told she was too muscly, too masculine. Then she was told that she was kind of too sexed up and she looked like a prostitute in a photo where she was sat on a throne. Then she was told she was wearing too much clothing when she was wearing that functional bodysuit to, you know, a life-saving bodysuit after she'd nearly lost her life giving her birth to her daughter, and it was helping to prevent blood clots. And the French Open came out and said, you know, we're going to ban this catsuit. Whichever way women try to do it, they're criticised for it.
I still think it's not where it should be. And even though, yes, it was 12 years ago, I still don't think it's great for those female athletes coming through because they still get the same judgment.